Mr. President, first Detroit Auto Show in 3 years.
Yeah.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it.
It's been over a year now since the pandemic has officially been declared over. But some of the most controversial decisions and mandates in United States history, in world history, that has completely divided society into different camps, is still playing out in present day. Because a lot of the suppressed truth that they have been protecting for so long is finally coming out. We've been witnessing a lot of strange anomalies with a lot of people, famous and not famous, dying suddenly because of heart attack, stroke, heart disease, myocarditis, blood clots, brain hemorrhaging, stroke, cancers coming back, and several ailments that we are now hearing every day. However, unfortunately, most of society is completely oblivious, programmed, and in complete denial that anything unusual is going on. Because that's how the system, the matrix that we live in, socially engineers your average person to be, to never think critically. In fact, many people around us are closed-minded, easily triggered and irritated by people merely entertaining quote-unquote conspiracy theories or any frowned-upon conversation that goes against mainstream narratives. That's just how the matrix works. But despite that, there is a huge awakening of people who are asking questions and connecting dots. In addition to that, a lot of people are coming forward with their stories of regrets and injuries after being forced to take the jab. And the conversations are going viral. There's been lots of strange anomalies of people dropping, news presenters falling out, the rise in weird, shocking health scares like the sudden cardiac arrest of football player Damar Hamlin, and now most recently, many people have been talking about Jamie Foxx. And for a long time, discussions about the jab or how they could possibly be connected to any of these occurrences has been strongly discouraged by mainstream media. And almost all platforms have been severely censored with draconian tactics. Now, I'm about to play a clip from Candace Owens, and no, I am not a supporter of hers at all. But truth is the truth, and she summated the situation very well. I know very well who and what she is. Yes, she grifts and sucks up to a base. Positioned where she is to take very controversial anti-black positions. And she is a dangerous pro-establishment bootlicker who even once said the police are the most oppressed group in America. Yeah, that's her. And that, Candace Owens, no, I do not support. But we live in a very strategically polarized, dumbed down world where we're trained to stay on our teams. And if we are convinced we don't like someone, we disavow every single thing they say, which is extremely anti-intellectual and regressive. When someone's right, they're right. And when she takes on certain topics, very specific topics, Candace Owens is on fire. And on many topics she covers, she is correct. Only those that get out of the matrix and get out of their emotions can hear truth from people they don't always see eye to eye with. When you understand how the matrix works, they only let certain types of people become very popular because there's a machine behind them. And most people who are on the top, as far as popularity go, have a whole base behind them. And the powers that be are not as interested in shadow banning these people because they play right into the matrix. They know that lots of people are already going to drown her out and not listen to a word she says because they're indoctrinated by another base that tells them not to listen to her. And that's how the matrix operates. It keeps everyone in perpetual confusion and division. So everyone stays emotional and no one listens to anyone else, even when they're speaking the truth. Both sides stay going at each other. And people believe things through indoctrination and groupthink. And they cannot think from an enlightened place without any kind of loyalty to a political base or ideology controlling their mind. That's why they very rarely will let someone become hugely popular who doesn't pander to a certain political group, base, or ideology. Because that person becomes too dangerous when they're too logical, when they're unbiased, and they are attempting to communicate to everyone without an agenda, the only agenda being disseminating the truth. They hate that. In fact, that's why I've been shadow banned many times. I don't play sides. They discourage that. However, when someone's part of a team, it's easier for the powers that be to allow it and let it go. They know the algorithms work to support what people already believe anyway. And the same people who already think the same way are going to share and like the same videos. And everyone is going to remain on their respective camps and plantations. And nothing really changes. That said, no matter where you fall politically, I challenge you and encourage people to remove emotional biases, political affiliations, opinions and beliefs, and ideologies, and just listen to what she says here. Let's listen to a few moments where, love her or loathe her, she's very much on point.
Man, oh man, Jamie Foxx. I don't even know where to begin with this because this feels like I feel a part of this journey in many ways. Obviously, you guys know I am producing The Shot in the Dark. I have been producing it off of a Daily Wire platform. Now it's on the Daily Wire platform. I don't know if this needs to be deemed a passion, but I'm extremely passionate about bodily autonomy. And it was very weird for me when conservatives and liberals alike were suddenly in lockstep encouraging people to get an experimental vaccine. It just seemed very strange to me. And then people like me who were sensible and said, I'm not going to, it was like a patriotic call. They tried to frame it like a patriotic call. Do your part, roll up your sleeve and get this shot. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. You should never, ever, ever put something in your body that you are uncomfortable with because you are under duress. If it is because of a job, leave the job. It's that simple. You only have your own health, right? You're not going to get your health back if it deteriorates, if you get some lifelong illness. So it's interesting to me that money compelled people to do things that they were uncomfortable with. I have people in my family, in my immediate family, that were injured from this vaccine severely, will never have the same quality of life ever again, despite me pleading with them not to get this vaccine and to wait for it. And obviously, by the way, and speaking of topics that we weren't allowed to talk about on YouTube, I remember the peer pressure campaign for all YouTubers to remain mum because they decided that you were not allowed to at all say anything but to encourage people to roll up their sleeves and to get this vaccine. And many people suffered the consequences. Well, we can't say they suffered the consequences per se because it's all hearsay. But remarkably, a bunch of young, healthy people in Hollywood started experiencing things like face paralysis and brain clots. So before we get to Jamie Foxx, let me remind you, Justin Bieber, whose face just magically went paralyzed. And he was on tour, which would signal to me that he definitively got the COVID-19 shot. But again, that is sheer speculation. We can also just assume that a healthy young kid in his 20s just randomly gets a paralyzed face. Take a listen.
This syndrome called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, and it is from this virus that attacks the nerve in my ear and my facial nerves and has caused my face to have paralysis. As you can see, this eye is not blinking.
Well, lightning struck twice in the Bieber household because his wife was then also impacted with a droopy face and a blood clot in her brain. Take a listen.
When I went to respond, I couldn't speak. The right side of my face started drooping. I couldn't get a sentence out. Everything was coming out like, not even jumbled, just like couldn't get any of the words out. So obviously immediately I thought I was having a stroke, like a full-blown stroke. He thought I was having a stroke, so right away he asked for somebody to please call 911 and get a doctor.
Are we normalizing that? Are we normalizing people that are in their 20s thinking that they're having strokes, having face paralysis? Is that normal now? Are we doing that as well as young kids having heart attacks? Are we just going to pretend that we didn't do anything medically throughout COVID that could be contributing to that? Okay, cool. I want to play by YouTube's rules. They just all are randomly having this stuff happen to them. Of course, that's just two examples. Well, Jamie Foxx was admitted to the hospital because of a medical complication. That's all the public was told on Thursday, April 11th, and we were never given any specific details on his current health status. He had been replaced in a movie that he was working on. There's been a lot of speculation. Like I said, it was no way to say that this happened or it didn't happen. It was pure speculation surrounding various things people were saying that he was going through. And his daughter initially spoke out and said that he's out of the hospital. Rumors are running wild. The media is running wild. He was playing pickleball yesterday. Thank you, everybody, for your prayers and support. We're excited to announce something else in the next week or two. Well, she made that statement, and then I would say about a week later, a journalist by the name of AJ Benza claimed that he spoke to a source that was extremely close to Foxx. And here is what he heard about the situation. Take a listen.
I had somebody in the room who let me know that Jamie had a blood clot in his brain after he got the shot. He did not want the shot, but the movie he was on, he was pressured to get it. What I found out from the man in the room was that the blood clot in the brain caused him at that point to be partially paralyzed and blind.
So I will make an assessment based on what is not being said. His family has spoken to the media. This obviously went viral. Everybody is reporting on this on the left and the right, and the family has declined to comment thus far. Now, I would say, just using common sense, that if this was my family and a person went out and told a viral lie that I suffered a blood clot in my brain because of the COVID-19 vaccine, we would immediately issue a statement. We would condemn the journalist, and my family would call them a liar and say that it's just none of your business. But they seem remarkably hush-hush about this, and they are choosing to say nothing. So their silence seems as though they are suggesting that there is some veracity to this claim. We are all holding our breath to see whether or not Jamie Foxx speaks out, especially because he's saying that he did not want to do this. This is what they were doing. They were demanding that in order for people to make money and to have a livelihood, in the same way that with children and vaccines, they say, if you want your child to go to school, even if you're uncomfortable with your child getting X amount of shots in one go, hence my series, A Shot in the Dark, they say you have to do it, right? So you're not free to make these decisions. No, you're making these decisions under duress. And it is so important for people to remember that you only have one body.
Now, again, it does not matter where you fall politically. What she spoke just now was the truth. But with so many people under a powerful hypnotic spell right now, or perhaps a little too invested in who the messenger is, in this particular instance, this will all be resisted. But here's the interesting thing, and this is also why they let someone like Candace Owens become popular. They know that she's a part of a machine, and there's a machine that works against her in this matrix that we're all in. So let's listen to what the left has to say when she was talking about the same topic, but about other people.
Candace Owens, who, I mean, in my opinion, is very untalented, but she is shameless. So that gets her a lot of clicks and a lot of play, and the right finds her useful. She is now peddling an insane conspiracy theory about the death of beloved comedic actor Bob Saget. You have to hear this and see it to believe it.
So, am I a conspiracy theorist or am I Nostradamus? The answer is neither. I'm just not on Big Pharma's payroll, and I refuse to peddle in their lies.
Ma'am, this
and
is
so
a Wendy's.
To that end, today, I'm going to point out another truth, and it will likely be deemed a conspiracy theory until it's not.
What?
There are too many healthy individuals like Bob Saget who we know have received their vaccinations who are dropping dead suddenly and unexpectedly with no further explanation. Healthy athletes, young students in their physical prime, the majority of them males, dropping suddenly and unexpectedly in the middle of games from heart issues.
Suddenly and
what we know for a fact is that these people are being mandated to take the vaccine. And we know for a fact that these vaccines come with a warning that they bring about myocarditis. But the media is once again gaslighting the.
First of all,
so does COVID.
Yeah, COVID actually has a it's more likely that you are going to experience myocarditis if you contract COVID, and myocarditis is caused by other diseases or like viruses.
Yeah, you see, when the myocarditis, the left is just going to keep babbling idiotic, mindless regurgitations, the same shared pharma-approved mainstream talking points. That's all they're going to do. They're going to tell you what the government-approved experts say. The experts who've been consistently wrong. If you want to hear more of the condescending, incoherent, liberal babbling, you could always Google those links on your own. But on my channel, I'm playing just enough so that you get the point. Moving on.
So I have to tell you, I absolutely love this story. I actually take pleasure in bringing you this hilarious story. As you know, Republicans are currently the most anti-vaccine group in the United States. There's no single factor that predicts being against COVID vaccination as much as being a Republican. Republicans love to say, well, look at anti-vax in the black community. Sure, there's a history of that. We've talked about where it comes from. But it is Republicans that are the most anti-vaccine group in the United States. And for Trump personally, this is a problem. He believes he created the vaccines. Now, he didn't, but Trump believes vaccines work, which they do, but so many of his followers don't believe that. Prominent black conservative voice Candace Owens scored an interview with Donald Trump in which apparently she thought that she and Trump were going to commiserate and sort of do their anti-vax stuff together for the audience. But Donald Trump actually shuts it down. And there are like 5 or 6 different interesting things here. Let's look at the clip, which has gone completely viral, and then we'll talk about it.
We see the corruption, right? It doesn't seem like anybody ever pays for the corruption. And right now we're seeing corruption live, even in terms of big pharma, which is a huge topic on the minds of mothers, especially. You're seeing what's happening at these school board meetings. Where do you stand on these vaccine mandates? And obviously, I know that you are pro-vaccine. Obviously, you did everything you could to get this vaccine out. I know where you stand on the vaccine.
It was one of the greatest achievements. We did it in less than 9 months.
To be able to do that. But now it's taken a twist, right? It's gotten, now we went from, this is a good thing and people should have this option, to military men, you're going to have to resign because you're not getting this vaccine. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I stand on, forget about the mandates, that people have to have their freedom. But at the same time, the vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. We would have had in 1917, remember the Spanish flu, killed perhaps 100 million people. Actually, it ended the First World War because the soldiers were so, a lot of people don't know that. The soldiers got so sick. It was a terrible thing. There were no vaccines. There was no anything. I came up with a vaccine, with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years.
And yet more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Joe Biden, than under you. And more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how.
Well, no, the vaccine worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine. But it's still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good. And if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine.
What about the masking of children?
Now, even in this clip, Trump lies. Trump tells a bunch of lies in this clip. But specifically on the vaccines, he brutally schools Candace Owens, but he's still lying. Trump lies again about the Spanish flu. He calls it the 1917 flu. It was from 1918. He says it ended World War I. It didn't. So he's still telling his lies in this clip that we've heard from him so many times, but he's way more honest than Candace Owens is about the vaccines themselves.
Now here, David Pacman shows us the grave state of the left-leaning brain. A very intelligent man who was able to decipher very quickly that almost everything Donald Trump said was off and factually incorrect. Except that vaccine. When it comes to that, oh, well, he was right, and he showed Candace. No, he didn't. It's almost like people forget, because Trump is Trump, that he is still very much an elected politician, a part of a machine. Trump is an insider and a player on the main stage. A candidate, again, already once elected to the highest position in the land, with covert corporate tentacles running through him every which way. RFK Jr. is something completely different. He's a new presidential candidate that was calling out all of the BS that has been going on. But they've been trying to censor him and make him look ridiculous. They don't want him in office. In fact, because of his positions against Big Pharma, they threw him on the disinformation dozen list. And that's exactly what would have happened to anyone who went against the machine. During the pandemic, there was no anti-vax politicians, blue or red, period, end, stop. If anything, this shows you just how hopeless and far gone the left has become. Because the man they loathe the most, they suddenly promote when he takes a pro-government, pro-pharma stance and gives the experimental jabs a thumbs up. I'm not endorsing the right, but it's clear the left has completely lost its way and is wrong about almost all the issues in the news today. The liberal left is pushing gender confusion. We are inundated with intelligence agency manufactured news, and the left is obsessed with gun control. They pushed and peddled completely fake, manufactured race issues like Stop Asian Hate. They literally used mentally ill black homeless patsies to create the illusion of a spike in Asian hate. And they convinced everyone that people are running around specifically only attacking Asians. They're always ushering in identity politics, pushing money and resources where they don't need to go, and now funneling lots of money and resources toward migrants who are not even citizens of the country. Most awake people know the whole entire political system is corrupt, and choosing between blue or red is about selecting the lesser of two evils. That said, most people used to think the red team was definitely the greater of two evils. Oh, not today. Not today. The blue team has manifested itself to be far more covert, insidious, and dangerous. It is the party of fascism, big government, pushing government agendas and doing whatever the power structure wants over the will of the people. And they're doing it with everything. The jabs, too. One of the worst attacks against Candace Owens on this topic came from a black media channel that could have disagreed with her a little more respectfully on this issue, knowing the history between government, the health industry, and black people. But oh no, this was the worst. Hence the overwhelming amount of dislikes on this video. Take a listen.
Speaking of ass whippings, I always enjoy watching the sheer stupidity of two people, Donald Trump and Candace Owens, together. But it was quite hilarious to watch this idiot Candace Owens interview Donald Trump, and even he have to smack down her stupidity when it comes to the vaccine. Y'all know I don't give a damn about Candace Owens. I think she's one of the dumbest people you've ever seen in the world. She's a grifter. And matter of fact, her stupidity is only matched by the stupidity of Donald Trump. And so let's just call this segment the Stuck on Stupid segment. And so we got to get a kick out of watching these two idiots talk to each other. Y'all, listen to this exchange. Reese, you got to enjoy that idiot.
Well, let me say, because, she gets dragged for her, non-trimmed burnt edges all the time. Her hair is looking better. Her makeup is looking better. She's not sounding any more intelligent. It's bad when Trump is the one who make a little bit more damn sense. I mean, he was talking about how China has a better education system, how the vaccine is the greatest thing. It's like glitch in the matrix. What is happening here? And so it wasn't going according to plan. I don't know who initiated this, but the interview definitely did not go according to plan. And I'm loath to give Donald Trump credit for anything because he is people forget so quickly. He is the most destructive politician who has led to the degradation that we see today in terms of having a fact-based, science-based discourse in our society. But in this case, he just so happened to, keep it somewhat real.
Moments like this is exactly why old establishment black media has been steadily losing support in the black community, because old establishment black media has just become way out of touch and consistently disrespects the opinions and sentiments of much of its own demographic. These people have to already know that most black people do not support the mandated jab agenda. Historically, the government and healthcare industry regarding black people have a horrendous track record. They've never earned trust. So just trust them anyway and allow the government to inject an unknown EUA drug without research, without knowing what will happen, without having the long-term effects explained, something they admit is an EUA drug, which is completely experimental. Just saying, if anything were to be deemed stupid, it would be to trust the government and just blindly ingest this EUA concoction. But many black platforms switch everything around in reverse because many of them are covertly adhering to mainstream scripts. And by very crudely insisting Candace Owens is so dumb and she's so stupid because of her vaccine stance, well, he's disrespecting a lot of his own audience by proxy. And the reason for this is because they're about dictating what you're supposed to believe. They don't serve the truth. They push propaganda and corporate agendas. It is so obvious that Big Pharma controls the public conversations on all of these topics. Since when has it become stupid and dumb to want to do your own research, to practice discretion, to be objective, or to practice health autonomy and not want to take an experimental drug that most people provably didn't even need? So just blindly doing what the government tells you and just giving into forced medical tyranny. Well, that's smart. Don't think and just obey the experts. Brilliant stuff. But being objective and in charge of your own health decisions, that's stupid and dumb. And these are the old, tired media tactics that people are actually starting to wake up from and abandon. Even if that's the station's stance, that's fine. But you don't have to be so dismissive, condescending, arrogant, and vitriolic toward her and anyone who might agree with her, which happens to be a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, there are other things that she said that might deserve a little bit of a tongue lashing. But this isn't it. In today's black media, this is what you get. On this and all issues, pushing a liberal democratic angle. And no, to be clear, I am not presenting the red team as a place to go. They have their own evil ways of doing things. It's just different. But I'm simply explaining why there is a steady mass exodus away from the Democrats, because the party has lost its mind, always systematically protecting government agendas, including the jab at the behest of the government and Big Pharma. So here we are. I'm not here trying to insist that Jamie Foxx is definitely the victim of an adverse reaction, because I don't know. And you have to be careful in this environment to be clear about what you say, because people have literally gone insane. People have allowed themselves to be so indoctrinated and so easily triggered. Because at this point, people are protecting delusions, mired in cognitive bias and cognitive dissonance. People don't want to hear things that shake them to the core and make them rethink their positions. And I get that. So you have to really tread lightly in this new world, in which critical thinking is at an all-time low and is discouraged. But what some of us are simply saying is, for so long, we couldn't even discuss possible consequences of taking something we've never taken before, or discuss any of the strange coincidences, because the pharmaceutical industry bankrolls most of the media. Things have gotten so bad and the indoctrination so powerful that even when people tell you themselves and say, hey, I took the jab and this happened to me, I feel like this, the masses reject the information. The masses, seemingly under a hypnotic spell, begin to gaslight them and tell them, no, it's this, it's that, it's not this, it's not that. And you have to know, this is not normal. In a recent interview with Cam Newton, which I kind of don't like, all these celebrities and athletes coming out with podcasts and stuff. It's like, why? I feel certain lanes should be left open for the real everyday people, grassroots folks who do this for the love of the truth, not compromised celebrity people who already have corporate tentacles in them. So many of these people are already on a leash, and these endeavors are just to build on their celebrity. But anyway, T-Boz, talking with Cam Newton, admitted that she took the jab and her health was never the same. And both Cam Newton and T-Boz admitted that they felt bullied into doing it in the first place.
But you can't tell me, I think the vaccination, honestly, my last 3 crises that I haven't had anything like that after that shot. I think it messed me up. I really do.
Which one did you take?
Pfizer. I don't care which one I took. You can't tell me.
It's mixed reviews now. Now, do you think it, I won't say a ploy, but do you think the actual vaccination helped us as a whole?
I don't know, honestly, because I have mixed emotions, because I honestly probably wouldn't have gotten it if I didn't have to go back to work. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because of that reason.
It was a lot of people, including myself, that suffered from kind of being bullied into getting it. You know what I'm saying?
I felt bullied into it.
It's like, for we live in a country where freedom of speech, they say you can, you are to be whatever you want to be. Mm-hmm. But it's certain things and moments and times where it's just like, you're free to not do it. Yeah. But if you don't do it,
you can't get paid, you can't come to work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's how it was for me.
Yeah.
And then I still got COVID anyway, twice.
Twice?
On the massage table, my massage therapist gave it to me. I dodged that shit for 2.5 years, massage table. Then just recently in Sydney, Australia, I was stuck overseas with COVID. And I have no earthly idea where I could have caught it, except for maybe the quick change on stage with other artists, because they don't wipe that down. But I have a very low immune system because of my sickle cell. Mm-hmm. So, shoot, if Cooties was a man, I'd be married every day, child.
Look at you.
So they kind of proved Candace Owens' point, but the liberal left is never going to tell you that. It's not a part of the agenda. T-Boz feels injured and that her health suffered after the jab. And both don't feel right about the decision because they felt pressured to do it. And T-Boz was also taken aback because she ended up catching COVID anyway, because she was under the impression that it was a vaccine when that was not correct. They were only calling it a vaccine. It never was a vaccine and did not provide immunity. And everything that they said about the so-called vaccine was not true at all. Didn't stop COVID, didn't prevent you from passing it on to others. None of what they said was true. But anyway, forced medication is addressed in the Constitution. When you understand the 14th Amendment, Section 1.6.5.1, the right to refuse medical treatment and substantive due process, that may make it clear why they were blatantly lying about the so-called vaccine's effectiveness. We have the right, the God-given right to refuse medication, but in Jacobson versus Massachusetts, the courts upheld the Massachusetts law allowing local public health officials to require vaccination against smallpox. While the petitioner in Jacobson argued that the compulsory vaccination law infringed upon his right to care for his own body and health, the court explained that it was in the best interest of protecting communities against the spread of disease. That was paramount and of necessity. So this is nothing new. When scientific evidence can prove that a drug or procedure is effective against a pandemic or plague that could take lots of lives, they can infringe upon your rights and make you do it for the good of the entire society. That's why they were running with the false narratives that it stopped COVID and prevented us from passing it to other people. When they were peddling that propaganda, it was most likely in the attempt to grant the government this power again to force medicate. You should never be forced to ingest anything. But the left is all about taking your rights. F the Constitution, give up your guns, give up your kids and parental rights if they want to transition. Government always knows best. Just comply, take the shot. Now, I didn't mean for this, or any of my videos for that matter, to be divisive. That's not the point. And my goal is not to agitate anybody, antagonize, or instigate arguments. But the sad truth is that many in society are sleeping and cannot accept the reality that we live in a matrix of deception. We live in a corporatocracy in which they control the information. And a lot of the things that are told to us is not true, but what they want you to believe. And there are many ways in which they hide the truth and keep lies intact. And one of the many ways in which they do that is keeping us locked in teams, camps, and tribes. And when they have people psychologically stuck on a political plantation, the ability to use logic, reason, and critical thinking becomes less likely. There's many people who took the jab. Actually, most of the people I know. And that's quite okay. And what's done is done. But what we shouldn't be doing is lying to ourselves, still listening to liars in 2023 and beyond, or supporting censorship, discouraging people from simply speaking and theorizing because you know the truth because you watch CNN and only listen to all the experts, all of whom are covertly connected to pharma. Yeah, let's stop that. So here we are today, and we currently have multiple psychological issues going on. The writing's on the wall, and a lot of people are in the ego and either can't see or don't want to admit they may have been duped. A lot of people fought with family members, forced them to get it, peer pressured and bullied friends. And so there's a lot of guilt, with some of us realizing they may have been on the wrong side of history, although very well intentioned. But none of that should matter now, and it's never too late to realize that we live in a system governed by evil people who have nefarious agendas in mind. And whether we like it or not, or whether we're asleep or awake, we live our lives either supporting those nefarious agendas or working against them for a better world and a better society, breaking free of the matrix. We don't have free press. We live in a corporatocracy, and all the information we are exposed to is controlled. So let's get real for 1 second, and I'll be very careful because I know people are just not used to hearing things real and direct over these monitored airwaves. The government, along with the pharmaceutical industry, had plans to merge with big tech for a new world order of control. And they ran psych warfare and a psychological operation, and they were collecting data and learning in real time how many would simply comply. They wanted people to trust and comply, to go to work, to travel, to be allowed entry everywhere, to buy, sell, eat, and fully expected to normalize this new system of control over society, fully expecting people to believe all of it was for their own good. And as this quiet takeover was happening and as scores of masked people were afraid, watching the reports of deaths, by design, the Matrix had many people in society ingeniously divided and polarized the entire time. In order to decode the Matrix moving forward, people have to lose their ego and out of our own fixed, closed-minded perceptions that may very well be delusions, and understand that the truth may not come only from our political bases. When you're psychologically stuck on a political plantation, your political adversaries might be speaking the truth sometime. The enlightened mind knows that all the truth isn't only on one side of the fence, and nor are all the lies. The enlightened mind detaches itself from these types of affiliations and teams that control the mind on a subconscious level. and causes you to be led by your emotions or ideology, not by logic and or reason. That said, we are in the middle of a spiritual paradigm shift, and what the world governments tried to pull off in the guise of public health and safety was not in the light, was not justified, was not ethical, or on the right side of history. Because on provably false and disingenuous justifications, they tried to bypass free choice and informed consent. Bold-faced lying, bullying, shaming, pressuring, bribing, on the justification of just trust the science in a for-profit allopathic industry. This is a spiritual war, and this is a time for warriors, not followers and compliers. Compliers to very obvious corruption. Not all media is bad, but much of it is the protected tool of the corporatocracy, and its function is to tell you what to think, not necessarily what is true. And when you subscribe to media that caters to a specific base, you should be always checking if the information resonates with the truth or an ideology. At any rate, and in closing, this jab conversation is far from over, nor are the attempts from mainstream platforms to hide information and control the narrative. Try never to get sucked into the left-right paradigm. Listen to all people first without biases or judgment. Open your mind and escape the matrix.